Dr. Ami, please.
Thank you, sir.
I request the members kindly to cooperate and confine within the time. Yeah, because time is restricted to 1 hour. Please.
Extra time.
Thank you, sir. Sir, this was much needed, but looking to the amendments that have come forth, I'm very surprised that this has also gone the ordinance way. It should have been a full-fledged procedure that should have been followed for such an important amendment. However, now that it has been brought, sir, I would just like to point out two lines from the statement of objects and reasons. It says, after enumerating the details of the Act of 1957, then also the Coal Mines 2015, and other data that is given in respect of mines and licenses issued earlier, to overcome the difficulties in the mining sector, it has become necessary to make certain amendments in the Mines and Minerals Act and the Coal Mines Act so as to facilitate seamless transfer of all valid rights, approvals, clearances, licenses, and the like for a period of 2 years to a new lessee in case of minerals other than coal, lignite, and atomic minerals. And that is, after this, the amendments have been listed. Sir, after having gone through the amendments and the changes that have been intended to be brought about, it clearly shows that some of the procedures have been done with. So two glaring things that come forth. Of course, the bill opens up the coal sector for commercial mining, allows domestic investors. It also allows global players to come in this sector, invest in this sector through the FDI route. And that's the way the FDI is going to be attracted. But the other factors that practically come with the baggage of FDI has to be looked into objectively, and that has not been taken care of in this particular bill. Sir, the two important things that have been in the amendments are, one is that there has been a liberalization or dilution of the eligibility criteria. And the other is that there is a removal of end-use restriction, and which I would just elaborate by just enumerating what is the issue lying here. Sir, when you are diluting the eligibility criteria, it says that you can come with 100% FDI by automatic route in the sector, but anyone who doesn't have a prior experience also can bid for this. Now, by removing this restriction, by diluting this particular aspect, I think we are talking about a very specific and a sector which has kind of expertise, and in that when you do not have an eligibility criteria, I think that needs to be dealt with in a very proper and a procedural manner. That is missing, and I think the minister will have to say what do they mean by just diluting this criteria, and how will they evaluate whoever comes in the bidding process. The second thing that the amendment says is that you have removed the end-use restriction. So whoever gets the end-use product can use for own consumption. And now, if that is the provision that is sought to be made in the Mines and Minerals Act, we are talking of national and natural resources of the country. And if that is the rationale behind opening up the sector for FDI, are you exposing the national or the natural resources to foreign investors specifically and specially? When you are talking about sustainable development, you are making a commitment at the international level on climate change. Sir, we are talking about coal, and we are talking about usage of coal in energy or in manufacture of power, or getting these kind of end products. And if you think that by removal of this clause, the end use is going to be given to the discretion of the person who is going to use that, what is the law, or what are you proposing, or what action are you going to propose to restrict this particular restriction? That is not there. The removal is completely blatant and is kind of a blanket which is given. So these two criteria are kind of giving some kind of a sense that what is this FDI route which you are allowing, and what is this coal consumption or opening of this sector to private companies or domestic investors or foreign investors, by giving them the access to our natural resources and allowing them to use them the way they are. Sir, one other factor which the amendment is talking about is the approval processes and transfer of approvals. Somewhere I think the central government is not required. In some places the state government is required to take permission. So how do you decide this particular or kind of whether it is a convenient kind of a methodology or a convenient kind of largesse you are giving to the central government or to itself or to the state governments. These are sectors which belong to specific states. And if these approval systems do not have a proper channel and a proper procedure laid down, the amendments are completely silent. And this 2-year period which you have mentioned, that yes, the erstwhile person who is having the mining lease, sir, the statutory right, the statutory approval, statutory licenses which go with that particular mining lease or mining license, I think there is no mention how will you kind of cross-check why this automatic transfer of these rights will go to the new person who is bidding for this auction, when that earlier, when the criteria, basic criteria of selecting that person and allowing the person to come in the auction itself is not clarified in the amendment. So these are two very big ambiguities in the amendment, need to be plugged. And one other factor, sir, which is very important and which has been given a complete go-by. When you're opening the route for FDI in such a sensitive sector, such a sector where the Honorable Apex Court has come into the picture and cancelled the allotments, so there is no mention of the welfare of the people, health of the people who are there, communities of the people, and the most important is the ecosystem's fragility and environment clearances. Sir, the impact assessment which earlier used to take environment impact assessment 2006, there have been many amendments. But what about the mining part which is not mentioned? So this important, of course the route is opening the sector. We need FDI in the country. FDI brings with it technology know-how, it brings with it investments much needed for the economy. But when you are not dealing with the most important factors about transport of coal, which will result into air pollution, and not pinning down that polluter pays principle, which is absent here, on the end consumption or the person who is going to have the result of the end consumption, and absence of regulatory mechanism for this particular transport of coal by these private players in this sector is missing. How are you going to deal with that? And this is going to be, again, I hear ministers after ministers talking about frivolous litigation. There should be no more litigation in the courts, but you are opening a Pandora's box where I think people would go for the rights to the courts. When you do not worry about the welfare of the people, the social justice aspect, the environmental aspects, because we have been signatory to all COPs at the climate change conferences. We are committing ourselves to solar and renewable energies. We are trying to bring rent-a-roof policies for domestic users. But in absence of this particular important sector, where coal is going to be transported, coal is going to be used for personal consumption, own consumption by the end user, how are you going to regulate that? And that regulation is missing here. This other, apart from these factors, sir, I also would like to point out two more important issues, which are that we are unable to ensure that several matters are pending in the Apex Court. I would not, various high courts also, and especially where mining is an important aspect of that particular state. or a territory, we have not been able to talk about rehabilitation and resettlement of those community workers. Well, these individual cases or cases of a mass worker group, they do approach the courts, but ultimately it is up to the central government, it's up to the law to see that these vulnerable sections are protected. So when you're talking about environment and welfare of people, when you're talking about FDI, I think it's a very, very integral part of FDI that is coming to any sector. A sector which is very important and coal being most important. And I do not know whether Coal India will have to also, Coal India Limited will also have to be, because it's a big market presence, how it is going to take this amendment, because nothing is getting pinned on them by way of responsibility. So, sir, these two aspects, the environment, the welfare, and apart from diluting the process of getting these players into the sector and giving them complete right of use of the end use, is necessary for giving an explanation. One last suggestion, sir, there should be within the Ministry of Mines some kind of an intra-ministerial wing which should take care of all these subjects. Then and then what you have mentioned in the statement of objects and reasons, that a seamless process or a single window kind of process, it is becoming immensely difficult for people who invest, especially people who come from transborder companies, that they have to go for all these statutory rights. Well, all this transparency is required if you really want to attract FDI in this sector. And so these amendments do not address these two issues, and these need to be taken care of. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Amiji. Mr. Ashwini.